This is one of the most beautiful cars Mercedes has built in years, and it's actually coming here, so you'll be able to buy one. And no, it's not another SUV with 200 horsepower on the front wheels. It's a shooting brake, so it's basically a low-set wagon. A proper long roof, low slung luxury wagon, so that's quite nice. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mercedes is actually officially planning to launch it in Australia, which is really nice. Let's jump into it. We'll cover all the stuff that we know about it. Hello folks, my name is Ben Alexander. Thank you very much again for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. You don't see many wagons like this anymore, especially in Australia. We've gone kind of full crossover crazy everywhere, basically in the West, I think. So to see something like this come along is actually really, really nice, and it's confirmed for our market in Australia. It's actually refreshing. So this is a big deal for me. Let's talk about what it is. So this is the new Mercedes CLA Shooting Brake as well. It's part of the brand's new compact EV and hybrid lineup, and it's already been spotted in testing around Australia and previewed heavily in concept form, whatever concept form actually is. And it's expected to ride on Mercedes' new MMA platform, which is their modular Mercedes architecture, and it's been built specifically with EVs in mind. This is clean sheet EV engineering, which always turns out better in my opinion. There will likely be two versions, a CLA 250e plug-in hybrid and then a full battery electric shooting brake version, probably branded under the EQ range, or even just called the CLA Electric, something like that. So we're expecting about 400 to 500 kilometers of range WLTP. So if you drive efficiently, like 90 or 100, you should get that. And if they use the newer LFP-based battery pack as well that Mercedes has been trialing, that's what you'll probably get. Of course, if they use NMC chemistry, they could get an extra, you might get 600 kilometers rather than 500, something like that. And we're expecting the power to be around 150 to 200 kilowatts, depending on whether you get a single motor version or dual motor version. So it's pretty nifty. Basically, whichever way you cut it, I think it's pretty nifty. And it will likely be rear-wheel drive as a standard, as the default, which is always better in something that looks kind of sporty like this, to have rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, I think. Everyone seems to agree with that. Design-wise, it takes a lot of cues from the Vision CLA concept that Mercedes showed last year. So super slim LED lights, aerodynamic curves, quite flush door handles, things like that. And the body shape as well, very, very nice. The long shooting brake roofline with the hatch at the back gives it a really nice, I'm going to say swanky, elegant stance, I think, that you just don't really get with a tall crossover. I remember once when I was a young kid, and I remember seeing a Mercedes wagon, and I always thought, that is really nice. So I think I've got a soft spot for Mercedes wagons because of that, basically. Honestly, it looks like a concept car that has made it to production. It's pretty nifty. Why Australia? Why now? This is what surprised me actually when I was learning that they're actually definitely bringing this to Australia. Australia doesn't really get stuff like this anymore, and if it does, it's quite late. It's a couple of years late or something like that, in small numbers. We used to get, for example, the Holden Sport Wagon. Peugeot had the 508 SW. Subaru gave us the Levorg, which had a big crazy engine in it. But now almost everything is an SUV. So it's really nice to see, which is one of the reasons why I talk about the Seagull a lot and the Dolphin, because basically a huge amount of people want them, but they're just not expensive and there's less profit for the manufacturers, basically. And so they don't want us to have them, I think. That's something like that. But we actually still want these cars. So Mercedes is taking a bit of a risk here, I think, and it might pay off, especially if it's under $60,000. I will go buy one, that I can guarantee you, because there is a group of buyers who are sick of the SUV format, a load of people. And I think personally I'm not sick of them, but I think I would like to see some change, I think. People who want something low or small, like a hatchback, or sleek, but still very usable, I think this hits that niche perfectly. It's also worth noting that Australia's EV market, obviously majorly growing very, very quickly, almost 100,000 EVs sold last year. And in 2025, it will obviously be stronger. Mercedes has been doing reasonably well here, I think, especially with their EQ range, which are, in my opinion, some of the best EVs you can buy with your money. I think. A big statement, but I think so. I mean, I would say BYD give you probably the best value, but Mercedes makes some of the best cars or vehicles that you can buy. And a car like this gives them a design halo product, and I think something that stands out in a sea of BYD Seals or Model Ys or Ioniq 5s, for example. So that's a good thing to have those things. It also helps that the Shooting Brake will likely come with really fancy interiors, things like that. I'm talking MBUX super screen, massive in the middle there, nice leather. Obviously, it's a Mercedes, they're always doing that sort of thing. They've got all the fancy lights in Mercedes, like in the footwells, the doors and things like that, which is very nice. And also, I suspect the newer MBOS system, which is their new updated operating system. So there was a long period where Mercedes seemed to be a bit left of centre, in my opinion, but they're actually back on track, I think. I think for maybe roughly from 2010 to 20, something like that. I just think Mercedes lost their wow factor, really. So while this probably won't be a volume seller, it's not going to be something that we all buy to go get bread in. It's a profile builder. It's something that they can show off with, I think. And in Australia, in markets like Australia, EV buyers still care about badge and the design, and sometimes less about value and more about just getting something nice, actually. So let's talk about the price, where it's positioned, and what to expect. We don't have official pricing yet, but based on where the CLA sits globally and factoring in Mercedes Australia's current range from cheapest to most expensive and what they're planning ahead, I'd say you're looking at probably around $85,000 to $95,000 for the plug-in hybrid, and possibly $100,000 or more for the dual motor fast version of the Shooting Brake, basically. That puts it against, the Polestar 2 long range and Model 3 performance with regards to specs and things like that. The BMW i4 eDrive 40, for example, and probably the high-end trim of the Ioniq 6 as well, which I know, that's a hard one to pick, isn't it? What would you have, the Ioniq 6 in black or the black Shooting Brake? Really nice. I say black, and I get a lot of stick if I ever say anything positive about black cars. I don't really mind what colour a car is, if I'm honest, but I still think a black one looks good, though, even though they're 12% more likely to be in a crash than a white car. But none of those are wagons, basically. None of them have the styling that this does, and none of them wear a three-pointed star or the bonnet as a Mercedes badge. It still kind of matters to some people, even though they obviously lost a lot of their market in the last 15 years, they've still kind of got a core audience, and they seemingly haven't got that brand purchase back, which they once had in the 80s. So this isn't just a niche EV. Mercedes is clearly using it to roll out their next-gen EV tech, the 800-volt architecture, improved charging curves as well, bi-directional charging in future updates, but it is currently installed into the hardware, and much better efficiency than the old EQ cars, which were already pretty efficient and they had a good range. In fact, the concept version of this car promised under 13 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers WLTP, which would make it one of the most efficient premium EVs on the market, because I think that's kind of that's not so far off the BYD Seagull territory, is it? So we'll have to see, what the production version hits. Does it hit that? Does it come out with something close to that or not? But even if it does come close, that's quite impressive, really. I mean, it's not obviously as good as a Seagull, but it's pretty good. What does all this mean? For me, it's one of the most exciting Mercedes launches in a long time, because not because it's going to be everywhere, you'll probably not see too many of them, but because it's different. It's just nice to see something other than a queue of SUVs when you go to the supermarket. It's a proper return to beautiful design. It's efficient. It's not pretending to be a rugged off-roader or something different. It gives Australians a chance to own something that's a bit premium. It's an EV. It's not just another SUV with 200 horsepower. It's a proper car, again, which I think is fantastic. It's nice to see we're returning back to different shapes. And I know some of you will agree. It's also a bit of a test. If this sells well, we might see more wagons like this and Shooting Brakes come back, maybe even from other brands as well. And that'd be a good thing for people like me who still love cars that sit a bit low to the ground, that are smaller, something like a wagon or a hatchback. The Mercedes CLA Shooting Brake is coming to Australia, and I think it's brilliant. What do you think? Would you actually consider something like this over an SUV, or with the same specs? Or is it just a beautiful idea that probably won't work in this market? Let me know in the comments, especially if you've ever owned a wagon or a low roof car before. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether this really could work here in your opinion or not. I'm Ben Alexander. Thank you very much for joining me. That really is quite touching to see so many people in the member section on YouTube and on Patreon. Thank you very much. And yeah, all the comments I will read and I'll reply to you.